you guys think about the inhales and exhales, what do you like better? Everybody probably has a preference on what they like, the inhale or the exhale. If you think about the inhale, that's like life. It's bringing in life force, right? And it's also spirit, and everything that has to do with goodness is on that inhale. And then the exhale is essentially what's the opposite of life? It's death, okay? And not in a morbid sense where we're thinking about gore and the end of our physical life, but it's a releasing, it's a relaxing, it's a void, it's a moment of emptiness that is necessary for the next inhale. And so somebody asked about work-life balance. So if you're just going, and there's never the exhale, there's never the time for you to enjoy life and take it in or stop and smell the roses, so to speak, then you're missing the point, right? And you're going to be less effective. So we have to make sure that we're exhaling. And when it comes to breath, the exhales are actually the most important part, because the only way that oxygen infuses our cells is if there's a buildup of carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide, once it builds up in the cells, there's an exchange mechanism. So that's why a lot of us, if we want to oxygenate our body, we actually need to breathe less. Because if we just hyperventilate, there's never really a lack of oxygen that we have. It's more that transition between getting the oxygen into the cells that's the issue. And that only happens if the CO2 builds up. And so if you just start breathing, hey, Gary, you're boarding the plane now. Awesome. I wonder if there's a way you can pin comment for a second. There we go. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, everybody. A Q. All right. So, safe travels, Gary and team. We will see you in Costa Rica. You'll show us the beaches there, I'm sure, and the sunrises and the sunsets. And you guys will all be having a blast in the sun. So it's not about breathing more. It's about learning to relax, breathe less, and you can actually do more in less time. Because in life, we get things done in moments. It's consistent happenings through life, but it's those moments where those breakthroughs happens. And those breakthroughs are the most valuable points in our life. And it's very difficult to get to those breakthroughs if we're not inspired and we're just dead, essentially. Dead because we're breathing in too much. We're just working. We're just going. All right. So guys, there is a question, little tab in the bottom, and we've got some people wanting to come live. I will bring some people on in a second, but let me know why you want to come live. Let me know why you want to come live. All right. Speaking of breathing, I've been reflecting a lot on my life, and that's what I feel also the down parts of our life, right? So we have seasons. We've got summer, spring, fall, and winter, and sometimes our life goes through a winter. And I feel like a lot of people's lives are going through a winter right now, and I would even say including my own. I go through my seasons as well, and during those times we must recognize this is spring. This means that I'm going to go. This is winter. This is lay back and reflect and really assess what's important. And that's where things like astrology come into play as well, which I'm going to be live with Chris Witecki in 4 hours with him, and we're going to be talking about that as well. So definitely come back and see us then. So somebody says, I've been feeling depressed and lonely lately, which is good. And awareness is the most important thing. And depression means that the external forces around us are pressing in, right? Which means that the internal forces within us is less than the external forces around us. So there's pressure. There's too much pressure. We are getting pressed in and we feel depressed. That's what the etymology of depression is, okay? To press in. That's what depression means. So what is the opposite of depression? Does anybody know what the opposite of depression is? In the chat right now, who knows what the opposite of depression is? If depression means to press in, there's another word that means yes. 2018 SBEN. Got it. It's expression. Expression, and some other people are now getting it too. Expression means to press out. Okay, depression means press in. Expression means press out or up, which then means what? You can basically, by that definition, realize that you are depressed because of a lack of expression. Okay, so going into your life and analyzing it even further, you realize that you're depressed. Now, where are you lacking expression? Because if you are suppressed, or that's another word, but if you are, I was going to say suppressed from expressing yourself, then you're going to only be depressed. And so creativity, joy, watching comedies, like that could be the easiest thing that you can do. Get some inspiration, make sure that you act on it and express yourself. Practice expression. A lot of things in life we feel are not a skill, like being happy. We just feel like we should know how to be happy. And that's just a natural thing. It was the same thing when I used to own gyms. Everybody would come into the gym and they would feel like they knew how to run because we're humans. We should know how to run. It's just a thing that we do, right? We should know how to be happy. These are skill sets, okay? To run, it's a lot of mechanical skill sets. You need muscles strengthened in the right places. Your posture needs to be skilled in order to hold you in the right posture through the series and the movements of running. It's the same thing with happiness. If we're not skilled at things like expression, then the opposite's going to overtake us. And some of us do this naturally. But those of us who are in the dumps right now and are feeling a lot of pressure really get to practice. And things like depression, remember we were talking about inhales and exhales, things like the valleys let us recognize that maybe we're going in the wrong direction, or maybe we need to start reassessing things in our life. And these are the cycles that we all go through. And if we didn't go through these, we would never elevate our consciousness. We would never elevate our mentality. That was actually a good question. The best way I've and most positively learned to look at depression is to regard it as the leap between two truths. My life changed entirely in that moment. I'll let everybody interpret that because I don't want to put meaning onto something that I didn't say. I'm the least depressed when I'm working through my creative goals. Love it. Learning to move and express yourself through neutral observation. Okay, so more on this. If you are in present moment awareness, it is almost impossible to be depressed. Present moment awareness. if you're doing something that requires all of your consciousness, like someone just said, being creative, working towards my creative goals, that means that it's a goal, it's a target. It's not a easy thing to do. Okay, they're working on it. So what I found makes me extremely happy are things that are difficult to do. So, and they can be playful things like learning to ride a unicycle as an adult. If you guys haven't done that, try doing something like that. Get a slack line, try balancing, or if you do something, anything with your body, do it with your eyes closed. Try brushing your teeth with your left hand today if you're right-handed. All of these things require you to come into awareness. And again, this is a skill. You can start learning to do this with everything, to take the beginner's mindset, because that beginner's mindset is the only way that we get good at anything, right? It's not, practice doesn't make perfect, because if practice make perfect, then we would all be professional race car drivers, every single one of us, right? Because what are we doing? We're all practicing driving. So if practice made perfect, we would all be professional race car drivers right now, because we would be the perfect drivers. But we're not. Why are we not? Because through the phases of learning, we got over the beginner phase a long time ago. Remember when we were 16, 15, 14 years old, when we were learning how to drive? I remember the instructor had to tell me, hey, you only use one foot. You don't use left foot on the brake, right foot on the gas, which is what I thought. So in the beginning, you're just learning everything. And that's when you're in present state awareness. That's when you're gaining a lot of skills. Once you get over that state and you're in just like good enough mode, now you're just coasting and now you're not learning anything. And now there's no happiness, there's no skill building, there's no progression that happens there. So the secret to getting better at anything is to be always pushing the boundaries of where you are unable to reach. So always going to the point where you are not able to perform the task without thinking about it, and you actually need to think about it. And so if you're looking at anything in your life, your work, your play, anything that you do, if you're just showing up and going through the motions, you're not getting better, you're not progressing, you're not happy. It's I look at progression almost as equivalent to happiness, because progression is what we desire. It brings us happiness. I need this so much right now because I have a big ballroom competition this week. So nervous, stressed, trying to express performance, not thinking about technique and stuff. That's another skill, because the expression during a dance, you could be pushing the edges on that. Okay, why is your voice changing? My voice is changing. It's a good question, because for the last, I'm on day 8 of being in down and out, like what most people would call sickness, but it's really healing, right? When you're coughing and sleeping all day and headache and all of that stuff, that's your body healing. It's getting over the actual sickness, and the sickness is actually your life. It's what brought you to the point where your body needed to heal. And so I have rarely go through this in my life, but surprisingly, 8 days ago, last Tuesday, I started not feeling good. And this is the first time I've been able to speak or talk And so I'm talking to you guys more than I've talked to anybody in the last week. So the voice isn't all the way there. I coughed like 1,000 times yesterday. So pardon the voice. But at least we get to do this, right? All right. What else do we have here? I'm on an incredibly healing journey myself. Can I talk a little about work-life balance? I got that. Does Gary ever come to Alaska? We'll have to ask Gary that. All right, somebody's asking about the HG SUPs, which is good. I've been taking them as well. Hey, nervous system is overreactive and body often gets chills randomly. This happened after doing stretches and breathing exercises for pelvic floor issues. Any advice? So, chills are a funny thing because I'm not sure if every time we get chills, we're actually cold. A lot of the time we feel chilly because we feel what happens when we do get chilly is the hairs stand on end, and then we get that it's like the hairs feel brittle. I would even say towards painful, but then we associate it with being cold. And sometimes when we do something that causes a inflammatory response in the body, which inflammation can happen if we release certain areas of the body, that inflammation can cause the hairs to harden up because the inflammation causes pressure and then the hairs harden up, and then that can cause us to think that we're chilly, and we actually do feel chilly. We want to put a blanket on ourselves, but those of you that have known when you get chills, you don't get warm when you put a blanket on yourself because of what I'm saying. It's more of a inflammatory thing. Somebody's saying chills are a nervous system reset. And then, yeah, so I'm trying to say something similar to that because the hair is really just an extension of the nerves and you're really feeling the pain. Pain's a strong word, but you're really feeling the nerves coming through the hair, and we're translating it as being chilly. What's the answer to that? I feel that we operate to get rid of the chills with a bath more than with a blanket or turning the heat on, because the bath is more all-encompassing than just kind of making the exterior of our body warm. Well, I've been struggling with going back into my body after verbal argument. What can help, or what to focus on, breath or movement? So I would say that, Ruby Jean, the importance of an argument that you can even, the importance of what I want to point out of what you're saying is that you're even able to recognize that something is happening within an argument. Because a lot of times when we as humans argue, we go into frontal lobe of the brain, and no, my bad. We go into the emotional center, the amygdala of the brain, which is what they would be called more reptilian. It's more primitive, and we turn off the frontal part of the brain. And that's why it's almost impossible to get across logic to the person that you are arguing with, because you're both not able to receive with your frontal conscious thinking part of the brain, and we're in our emotional center, and that part, they call it the reptilian brain because it's very animalistic, very survival, very attack, even protective. So the only thing that we're doing in an argument is attacking and protecting, and there's no acceptance. And so the thing that we want to make sure is that in an argument, if we do get sort of beat up, because they don't feel good, I'm not saying like we're going to win or lose, but when we start getting destroyed by the argument, sometimes we start to dip our head and cower down like this, and we close our chest. And we want to make sure that we do the opposite of that and go take a walk, right? Away from the argument. And when we go take a walk, we can lift up our chest and we start moving both sides of the body. And we start moving both sides of the body, we start coming out of the areas that the argument brings us to. So we were using right, left, and the balance, and we're coordinating our arms to swing it. It starts to break up where the energy goes to in an argument. And so going on a walk, like, hey, I don't know why we're doing this. Can we relax for 10 minutes and then go on a walk? Whatever it needs to be. Or maybe it blows up and then you go on a walk. Going on a walk is infinitely better than going into your room and crying. Even though sometimes that's the only thing that you may feel like you can do. But going on a walk is going to reset everything back to homeostasis. And if you can do it barefoot on the ground, that would be even better. So that would be my little advice there. Is the argument to help or push away? I feel that arguments are also the I don't know if we can define a perfect relationship by one that is missing arguments, because I feel that the masculine, feminine are so opposite, and that's what attract, and that I didn't think Ruby Jean specified whether this was a romantic partner or not. But I even think in business, we are attracted to and we magnetize opposites. And when we do that, we have differing poles. We have different perspectives, which then causes a lot of arguments. So I feel that the most attractive people in our life are going to be the ones that we argue with the most. And so if we start seeking relationships with zero arguments, then we're going to find people that are just like us. And there may not be that burning attraction, which is what we need in a romantic relationship, unless you're just making a business deal with somebody else. But that, just keep that in mind, everybody, that if you're with somebody and you're very, very, very sexually compatible, it probably means that a lot of your energy centers are opposite to each other. And so there will be issues that need to be talked about often, and you'll likely trigger each other very perfectly. That is stimulating your own growth. So try not to beat yourself up too much about always choosing the wrong person because you're always in arguments with them. Because it's just the way that it is. Struggling to move forward from what? Let's see if they're available. Somebody declined. Once you start unwinding, you actually start getting taller. It was my relationship with my husband, but it spills into everything. It's my mind state. This is all a progression. Just remember that. We're all here as a progression. And when we can realize that everybody is producing, everybody is progressing, then we start to have grace for them the same way that we have grace for ourselves progressing. And we can actually start to love our previous self that progressed into our current self, just like we can recognize that everybody that we're reacting to or reacting with is also in a state of progression. And that's really how I found to be the only way to accept life on this earth, because it's not just people that we're looking at as a state of progression. It's our governments, it's our corporations, it's the food supply that we're dealing with. It's the EMF, it's the chemtrails, it's all of this stuff is in a state of progression. So we can look at it as it's just the devil and it's taking advantage of us and whatever else we spin out of control. And it's easy to not be responsible for yourself when you do that. And that's very disempowering. So the only way to empower yourself is to respect the process of all things. And when you respect the process of all things, you can respond. That's a responsible. Responsible doesn't mean blame, right? That's like a lot of people think and feel that word responsible means that it's fault, right? So I'm not responsible for this and that, and they're basically pointing their fingers at everything in life, pointing to say like basically I'm not responsible for that, but that's wrong. But when you say that, responsible means that you can respond to that. You're able to respond. And so if you're unable to respond to things in life, then you're just, what are you doing? You're not progressing. You're not happy. You're a victim. And so in order to empower yourself in all situations, it doesn't matter what it is, assume responsibility. Assume that even though it's not my fault, that I'm not the reason, even though I would go so far as to say that we all are, but even though there's something else, there's another entity going through its progression that's crashing into me, I'm still going to assume responsibility for this and operate in the highest level, the greatest version of self in this moment. Right? All right, I keep on accepting people to come live, but I think that it's been a while. All right, synchronicities. Somebody said I wrote that as you said it. Synchronicities are awesome. How can we self-regulate our emotions? How can we self-regulate our emotions? How do you protect yourself from EMF? Okay. EMF. Let's go through it then, huh? So first of all, this is actually a really important topic because if you look into old CIA documents, like the one with the Monroe Institute that talks about, what's it called? Astral projection, but they call it something. I forget what it's called. But the old CIA documents, they call the aura the biofield. And the biofield is interacted especially by devices and especially screens like televisions and TV monitors, which I have 2 external monitors and a laptop right in front of me. I've got studio lights around me. And so being indoors around this is interrupting the biofield. It's interrupting the aura. So we must, because our aura makes up a lot of our immune system. Because if you think about, there's the external fields of energy around us, and then there's our aura. So just like we were talking earlier about the emotions being depressed, our energetic frequency also must remain stable, or the other frequencies, the fields of energy around us, will overtake our field, which is the origin of our physical body. So protecting yourself from EMF, I do it in many different ways, but I'll go over the main ones. So first of all, unplug the Wi-Fi and the router and even the internet when you're sleeping at night. There's usually no reason to have it on. A lot of us have our alarm systems or it's basically about getting rid of the conveniences of Wi-Fi when we sleep, okay? So if you have these cameras all over, or the doorbell is hooked up to your Wi-Fi, that's going to prevent you from wanting to turn the Wi-Fi off at night. But I'm here just to remind you that sleeping with that EMF going through your body every single night, all year long, because one person is going to try to ring the doorbell at 3 a.m. and you might not hear it, it's not worth it. All right. So if you have one of those doorbells, if they touch it, it doesn't seem like it's on if the Wi-Fi's off. They're going to knock on the door. All right. Same thing with any of your devices. They don't need to be on at 3 a.m. Your body doesn't need to be interrupted by that. So that's number one. Number two, check this out. So I actually this is the third mouse that I went through, because I work a lot with technology. So I am infected by EMF a lot, and my hands were burning. And so I had to get one of these super old mice, and then I needed to actually get an adapter because it has one of these plugs. I want to show you guys. It has this plug, which doesn't go into my computer. So I need to get an adapter to plug it into my computer. But if you guys start working a lot with your mouse, your hand might start hurting, and it's because of the EMF. So, oh no, now I can't plug it into the adapter. Anyways, so start looking at devices and thinking, what can I use the analog? Can I use the analog version of this? That could be another thing that you do with EMF. There's also EMF clothing. There's EMF clothing. There's EMF devices that you can get. Somebody's saying headphones, get one with wires for sure. There's even headphones that this is an air tube. So this is actually the speaker, and what's actually touching your head is there's no electricity there because this is all air. So there's a speaker here, and then it comes up, and that's what goes into my ear. So what else can you do? A wired keyboard, if you're using an external keyboard, that all helps you also keep the laptop far away from you. The laptop is called a laptop because it's made to be putting on your lap, right? So putting your laptop on your lap, especially men, you're going to fry your testicles. So that's another thing that I would avoid. and you can get an EMF blanket if you want to do that. But I at least try to keep 4 inches in between my laptop and my lap. So that could just be a pillow. So if you do use your laptop, put a pillow in between you and the laptop. Also, if you're pregnant, please don't use your belly as like a table for your devices. It's like it drives me nuts just thinking that that's what's happening, is they're putting their phones on their belly to use their devices, or their, it's the iPads right there. Try to keep that stuff away. Yes, you can get necklaces. I usually have one, but I don't have one right now. And then what else can we do? When you go to Airbnbs, make sure to also unplug the Wi-Fi at night. That's another thing. And I think there's literally like tons of things that you can do, but we got to move on. First thing is to just make sure the Wi-Fi is not plugged on at night. And also, guys, you see this? I'm going to unplug it from my computer right now. This is an internet cord. They still exist. Okay, this is what people used to use before Wi-Fi. All right, it's a hard cable. I got this at Best Buy. It was very cheap. It was like $25 for 50 or 75 feet. And this can be used. You plug it into your router instead of using. Anyways, you can plug this into your computers and then not use Wi-Fi. And yeah, you're going to have cables going through your house, but some of you guys might be experiencing problems like I was, burning hands, maybe you're getting sick, and there's tons of stuff. Just Google how to, whatever your problem is. All right, there's some brands that people listed. You can DM me anything at raw_of_earth. What about hot flashes? I'm not the expert there. Hands are numb and tingly sometimes. Right. Good. Thank you guys for putting in suggestions. I see some brands in here, which is really good. Wires. My son puts the phone on his belly while he watches shows, and it's scary, working more on protecting his organs. When I was a kid, well, yeah. So if you are using, so the benefit of that wire to my computer is my computer, I don't need to have the Wi-Fi on. So yeah, there's still Wi-Fi coming out of the router, but so now if you guys set up internet that is super fast, you have the regular router, and then that goes to like what's called a cloud field device. Like Euro's an example of that. And it builds a field around your house. And so there's like 3 other cloud field devices that are basically taking that Wi-Fi signal and amplifying it so that everything in your house gets this super fast signal. And sometimes you don't have to use that second Wi-Fi if you're plugged in directly to the router, if you don't need devices all over the house like TVs. On top of that, you can turn off the Wi-Fi of your actual computer and the Bluetooth, so it's not trying to pull Wi-Fi, and that all, I feel, increases the load of frequency as well. Guys, the reason why this is important is because frequency of a field, fields interact with each other. So the definition of a field is that it's a field. There's a sameness. There's a homogenized frequency within a field. And so if two fields interact, one field is going to overtake the other field. And the one that overtakes the other one is going to be the one with the strongest frequency, the strongest, most coherent frequency. And we are fields, and we're interacting with other fields. So when we walk into a room, the people within the room that have the strongest frequency are going to be the ones that influence the most people. And not just people, but physical reality itself is a field of frequency. So we will be able to influence physical reality. Now, what gives you the strongest field? Everybody likes to say love, but there's something that is stronger than love, and it's authenticity. And authenticity, in my mind, I feel can be equivalent to love, but it's not the way that we define love. All right. So authenticity means that you think, feel, say, act in alignment. You're coherent. All right. And the coherency is what makes strength. If there's parts of you going left and parts of you going right, now your frequency isn't strong because it's compromised, because one part of your brain says, I don't want to go to work, but then your body goes to work. And so you're a compromised field because you don't truly align with what you're doing. And so if you are unaligned going into a room, back to that, and you're now trying to sell yourself or a product or enthusiastically impact a room, but you're out of alignment, then you're going to have less impact there. You're going to have less impact and influence over people. So make sure that, I feel that this is our main responsibility, is for us to find authenticity. And somebody's Gisku, I did not say that right, is saying the base of authenticity is love. Yes. So love is a difficult one in the English language because we see it mostly as a certain way, but love means a bunch of different things. So to just say the word love is it can be inaccurate. So I would say yes, that authenticity and truthfulness and what I'm discussing here is more in line with what truth and love is and the whole point of it, right? But we get love mixed up because our parents give us love when we do the right thing, right? And so now we're seeking, feeling that in others, or maybe we got love when we did something wrong. I don't know. So now we go out and we've got things wrapped into our love like shame and guilt and anger. And so we bring that tied into our love with other people. And here's something interesting. So I learned in school that, so agape is total love. So I was going to say that as well, that there's a book, I think it's called The Little Book of Love. It has like 281 or 283 or 286, something like that, different meanings of love in Sanskrit. I met the author at the Deepak Chopra. We had a private meeting with him a few years ago. But anyways, there's a book that has all these different meanings of love. And so in English, there's not very many meanings of love, but in these older language, there's many different meanings of many different things. I believe because these older languages had more advanced needs for language. So if you think about the needs of do I want to go here? The needs of a race that goes interplanetary, right? That language would need to be a lot stronger and more dynamic than, let's say, the English language, right? So the older languages are actually much more dynamic and resonant with truth than come forward in history to the English language. It's very dull, dumbed down, simple, and almost the opposite of harmony. I heard a sound, Dr. Horowitz, was that his name? There was somebody, I think he was like a sound doctor. He was speaking at a seminar and he was talking about the English language is the exact opposite of harmony. The exact opposite of harmony. Meaning that if you go 1 degree in any direction of how the English language sounds, it's more attractive than a native English speaker speaking, which is why any accent in the English language sounds more attractive to us, because it's a couple of degrees off. And so any accent sounds more attractive to us because the way the English language is spoken is designed to be exactly the worst harmonics for the human body. But I don't know so much about that. And something about there should be 52 letters, not 26. So half of our language is taken away from us. Weird stuff going on with our history, right? You guys see what's going on in the news today and how maybe it's not accurate. Imagine how inaccurate history is. All right, I'm accepting more people to come on. Pure intention is currency. Attention is also currency, which is why it's called paying attention. How does posture affect our mental, physical health? That's a good question. So I once designed a dating course that I never released. But if you look at animals, the most powerful ones walk around not protecting themselves. They expose their neck, they expose their genitals, they expose their belly. They're walking around in a strong posture is one that is vulnerable, okay? And then somebody who is weak is in a more protective posture, right? So their shoulders rolled forward to protect their chest. Their chin drops down. Even their hips, they curl in to protect the genitals. The tail tucks to protect the genitals. This all happens in somebody who's afraid, or an animal that's afraid or weak or second place, perpetually second place, never getting mating rights. All of that is reflected in posture. And so many of us feel that or at least we're taught that there's a difference between the brain and the body. And in this concept, it's good to think about the brain and the body as one thing. and that there is no brain-body connection, but that the brain is the body and the body is the brain, right? Because in the brain, we've got 100 billion neurons, somewhere around that. Depending on what day you Google, it's going to say that in the brain, there's 86 billion neurons or 100 billion neurons. And then in the gut, there's 500 million neurons. Okay, so that means that there's more than 0.5% of our brain power is happening in our gut. And then there's another 40,000 neurons in the heart. And then Gary says that there's 100 trillion nerve endings in the fascia. All right, so there's brain matter. That's the wrong word. There's neurons. There's the body is thinking. All right. And so if you do these postures, then your mental state is going to reflect it. There's if you guys know this book by Amy Cuddy, I forget the actual name of the book. I'm sure she's written many books on it. And there's even a TED Talk. Amy Cuddy, Cuddy, I believe is how you spell her last name. But there's a position that she talks about. It's the power position. So if you think about winning or celebration, if you put your arms up like this, and remember I was just talking about exposing your vulnerable organs, putting your arms up like this is, what is this doing? It's exposing all of your organs right here. This is something that you do when you won. And so just standing in this posture scientifically will bring your mental state to a state of a winner. Okay? You're going to, number one, remember, if you played sports, what that's like, or if you've watched movies or watched sports, you're going to be able to just remember that. But even just putting your body position in that posture brings you to the state of winning. Okay? So you guys, if wherever you are, if you just lift your arms up like this, and then again, present moment awareness, bring your awareness into your body. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be difficult to hold this position in order for you to be aware of it. Be aware of the whole thing. Feel all of your joints. Feel how your hands feel in this moment. How does your chest feel? How does your heart feel? How does your core feel? And then you embody the stance of a winner. Right? And as Gary and Jason and Cynthia and Aisha, they'll have you repeat things too, right? I love myself. I forgive myself. These words do the same thing, as opposed to saying or thinking something like, I am suffering. I am sad. I don't even really like saying that as an example. But even the words that we talk to ourselves with, the fascia is an extension of the aura, and the physical body is an extension of the aura fascia, not the other way around. The Wonder Woman posture. Yeah. So there's something else called, I'm trying to give you guys some resources, ecstatic postures. I've got 2 books on it. I'm actually in an Airbnb right now though, so I don't have my library here, but I think it's called ecstatic postures. If you guys want to go a little bit more esoteric on this, because I just gave you one that's very real. It's very third dimensional, human, the power posture, the winning posture, we can get that. If you think back to artifacts, right? Like think back to all these artifacts that they find in ancient places and caves, you've got these statues that are like, they're all in these weird postures. And so there's this, I would say, science or philosophy called, I believe it's ecstatic postures. And they take these artifacts and they replicate the posture. So there's tons of them. And then if you stay in that posture and then you play like a drum, like these tribal type musical instruments that are at a certain frequency, and then you meditate while being in this posture, then that will evoke you into a certain meditative trance state. And like I said, I've got 2 books on this, but it's been 6-7 years since I've opened them. I think it's called ecstatic postures. And that's a whole philosophy / practice where you can use posture mixed with a certain rhythm to bring you into a meditative state of being. This is cool. I completely forgot about that until now. So it would be amazing if somebody could look up if I'm saying that right, whether it's ecstatic postures. It's not ecstatic dance, obviously, but I think it's called ecstatic postures. All right. Wonder what happened to ancient civilization people. Well, I don't know if we should go there. I think that it's good for us to know what the journey of humans are. Ecstatic trance. Yes, it's ecstatic trance. So, thank you, entrepreneur, starting with the 3. 3 entrepreneur? I don't even know. Yeah, I think it's just called entrepreneur. So thank you. Yes, it's definitely ecstatic trance. That is it, because you go into a trance state, and sometimes it's a state of an animal, sometimes it's a state of a person or a place or motion. But yeah, ecstatic trance. How long is your hair? My hair, most of it goes down to the bottom crease of my butt, which I don't even think I can show you guys. Not really on screen right now, but most of it goes beyond that. And then there's like a really long strand that goes almost down to the middle of my thigh. There's like this longer strand that somehow, because my hair breaks a lot, I'm sure, because I don't ever brush it. You know what you guys should do? I just gave you a power position. You know what else is really important for your hair is blood flow. So everybody should massage their hair. Even if you don't wash your hair, massage your hair in the water, and that's actually going to give you blood flow up here. And I've actually found it very important because my hair is so heavy that I feel like if I don't do that, that it's a lack of blood flow to my scalp. So if we massage, so I have a podcast and I interview subject matter experts, and the next series that we're doing is on hair. And so I've interviewed my first hair expert, and one of the things that he said, because I said, hey, why do you brush your hair? Your hair is short. So the hair expert with short hair. And he said, you're not brushing your hair. He said, I'm not brushing my hair, I'm brushing my scalp. So he feels that it's super important to massage your scalp and then brush your scalp, because brushing your hair isn't about brushing your hair. It's about brushing your scalp to make sure that there's blood flow going there. You look Hawaiian. Are you Hawaiian? My parents live in Hawaii. My mom was born in Hawaii, but technically she's Filipino. My mom's Filipino, so I am half Filipino. For those of you guys who are just joining, for the last hour, it's been me instead of Gary, because Gary and the team are on the way to Costa Rica right now. So they're on a plane right now. Sorry that you're seeing my hot cacao drink here. That's not hot anymore. Okay. My podcast is called Subject Matter Experts Show.com. It's in the pilot stage right now. We just did our first 5 experts on testosterone. So I'm just pilot phasing it right now. I'm working a team together. So I did all the tasks myself, and now I'm going to get a team so that can help me edit, because that stuff takes forever to do. Can you answer my hair question, please? What was it? Can you ask it again, Cherry? Pips. I have a jade comb I comb my scalp with. Good. Good. Benefits of growing hair. So here's one that nobody's going to tell you about. The main thing that I think everybody gets from growing your hair is that you know who you are. So for those, not everybody here has followed me, right? But when I started growing my hair, I also grew my face. I actually just shaved this morning, but I didn't shave my face for 5 years as well. So my hair's been 7 years. 7 years, and my face went 5 years. Maybe it's 6 years. I'm not really sure on my hair. But when you look in the mirror and you see your hair long and you see your face growing and any other body part, I even let my eyebrows grow just to know myself, because you've been here this whole time. Authenticity, I realized, is a very important part of being human. And so but I desired to know myself more, to know myself better. And so knowing what I look like as I was designed was important for me to know. And so my mustache was down, past my chin, covering my mouth. And growing out your hair allows you to know yourself. And it's hard to explain, but those of you that have done it know what I'm talking about. And women grow their hair culturally, it's normal. But for men, there's many, many men who have never had their hair longer than 5 inches their entire life. So you don't even really know what you look like as a human if you've never grown your hair out. So that's one main benefit. And the other ones are a little bit more esoteric. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing that hair question that I told the person to re-ask. I'm not cutting my hair again, cut my long hair to just above my shoulders due to association, yet I know it helps tap into energies as native alert. All right, so guys, check it out. There's many, I'll give you guys some resources if I can remember them. So in the book series, The Law of One, there's a part, and I think if you go to the website LL Research something for The Law of One, written by Ra, R-A, you can just search to find the segment where Ra is talking about hair. But I think they say, Ra says that once you get past 5.5 inches, then that's when you start to receive the cosmic spiritual energy through the hair. And Ra also says that the tips are the most important part of that reception. So the tips, if you get the hair out and you just keep on cutting it, then you're still kind of ruining the reception of these spiritual energies. And so it's saying 5.5 inches after your last cut. This isn't a limit. I'm just saying what he says is, it's not a he. It's a Ra is actually a collection of entities. It's like the entire civilization that ascended out of Venus, the human species that was in Venus, ascended beyond our capacity that we're at right now, which is third density. And now they're a collection of entities within one entity, which came into physical form and labeled itself as Ra for us humans on Earth to comprehend. But there's a book series called The Law of One. And in there they talk about air having spiritual powers. And then there's also the stuff with Native Americans as well, right? And so the Law of One books are amazing. What if there are split ends? So if your hairs are not growing longer, it's probably because it's breaking at a faster pace than it's growing, right? So your hair is growing, but it's breaking as well. So it's breaking at a faster pace than it's growing. So we get to stop that. And we can do that by applying oil to the ends of our hair, which I don't do. Not because it's unhealthy or anything. It's just, for me, it's just I'm a bit lazy when it comes to maintaining the hair. But putting like avocado oil or jojoba oil or lotus oil, any oil on tips will help those split ends mend. And then also quit using heat, hot water, hot air, and then also make sure that your hair is not whipping in the wind, like on a motorcycle or out of a convertible car. Those things will help your split ends tremendously. And then, as I was saying earlier, massage and brush your scalp. Could you use coconut oil? Yes, rosemary oil is great to the hair as well. Thank you guys for the help here. You have genetically good hair. I do. What other hair tips do you guys have? So I like the concept that the hair is fascia, right? And that we're growing into the fascia. I know this is all human garage philosophy, and that the fascia is spiraling from the inside of the bone out, and then the bones and the muscle are growing into the fascia, and then there's the skin and the hair, the last physical layers, and then it goes into the aura, which technically is physical, but we're just going to say non-physical because of the just to delineate between what we can touch and what we can touch an aura too. But the fascia goes into the aura as well. Does dyeing hair affect the ability to receive cosmic energies? According to what we're talking about, definitely. So if you're painting your hair, it's also inauthentic. Sorry to say it, but if you're using any sort of, so if we're talking about strengthening our field, then things like shaving, makeup, dyeing your hair, all of that is in the reverse direction of authenticity, right? You can just think about that using common sense. So these are all just things that I invite you to step into just for even a season or a week in your life and see how that goes. Bleaching your hair is also probably the worst thing that you can do. It's taking out the melanin. And the melanin is here, I'm gonna just pin this. So when you bleach your hair, it takes out the melanin. Now, melanin is what receives the sunlight, and the light from the sun and the stars is the energy that we're talking about here, right? So if you look at your body, we've got melanin in our hair, in our skin, in our eyes, in our eyebrows. Pretty much there's melanin everywhere. Now, there's different types of melanin. There's pheomelanin, and there's eumelanin. And these are the difference between like the pale melanin, like the red pigments, and then the darker pigments. But a lot of people don't know that there's also a third type of melanin called neuromelanin. Should have asked everybody what the third type was. So there's neuromelanin. Neuromelanin, can you guys guess where neuromelanin is? Neuromelanin is in the brain. All right, so if we have melanin on our skin and our hair, we're taught that it means that it's there to protect us from the sun, right? But if there's melanin inside of our self as well, it's inside of our nerve, our brain stem, our brain, it's there because it's taking melanin and it's pulling in light. So they use melanin in technology now. And guess what its job is? To transfer electricity. So photon and electron, the difference between a photon and an electron is that an electron has mass and a photon doesn't. So what the melanin is doing is it's grabbing light and it's transferring those photons through the body. And guess where it's all going to? There's a book called Light Medicine of the Future that explains that when light hits the melanin in our eyes, that it goes through a complex it goes to the, I believe it's hypothalamus, then pituitary, then pineal. So it goes hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal. So all the light's going into our body, collecting, and then it's going in the pineal gland. Do you guys know what the pineal gland does? Is there a meaning to red hair? All hair is red. Should I take this tangent? So guys, all hair is red. This is just a pigment of red. So all hair is different pigments of red. You know what else is red? Copper. What do we use copper for? Wires. So back to, there's copper is an important part of hair, and that's actually why hair goes white as well, because now there's no melanin there. Now it's essentially a deactivated wire. But we still have melanin in our eyes. I also think that maybe there's less need for our physical body to do this technology stuff as we get older, because we're becoming more spirit-like as we're losing the functionality of our physical body. So I think that when we're young, everything's working to grab these energies. But as we get older, the physical body's dying, and we as a consciousness are having one foot over onto the other side anyways. So even if our physical body's becoming less capable of connection, feel that our spirit is crossed over to the other side anyway. So we don't have to feel like we're not capable because the color in our hair is going away. That's natural. Our body is going to leave us, and our body's not the reason for the connection. The body's helping facilitate that connection. We're connected either way. It's just when we're younger, we're very much in this physical reality. So when we get, I'm going on way too many tangents. Back to, can I finish up on that? Well, at least somebody says that makes so much sense, because I'm getting lost in my own words. All right. What does bleaching hair color outdo the person? All right. So the point was that light hits hair, goes transferred into the pineal gland. That's where I was. What does the pineal gland do? It produces two things. It produces melatonin, and it produces a little bit of serotonin. The rest of your serotonin, most of it's produced in the gut. So the pineal gland's producing melatonin. What does melatonin do? Melatonin gets released when we're sleeping, deep rest, otherwise known as REM, rapid eye movement, which is happening when what? When we're dreaming. So when that pineal gland's active, we're seeing dreams, light, it's that inner vision. And that's when we're getting connection to the light source that has been stored from being out in the light. Or if you're not outside in the light, it's being stored from the artificial light that you've been underneath all day long. So you're being recalibrated every single night by the light that you were exposed to during the day. So make sure to get outside in the natural occurring sunlight so that you're not being recalibrated by this broken light indoors. Got that? Questions. Those are good questions. Yet Gary and Cynthia's hair color is coming back. Gary's changing. Every time I see him, he looks different. Why is it sometimes when you meet someone, you feel like something is off? Oh, there's many different ways to answer that one. I'm going to answer that one. All right. So thank you guys for asking these questions, by the way. We were trying to pin that one, which was, why is it sometimes when you meet somebody, you feel like something is off? So I like the way that it was asked, because it basically suggests that the off feeling is residing within self, right? So that's the first thing that we must accept, is that any feeling that we have is residing within self, and that our entire experience of life is our experience of self, okay? And so I went to school for psychology, and what they taught us in psychology, which I still feel is a little bit true, is that What you don't like in others is what you don't like about yourself. And what you like in others is what you enjoy and respect about yourself. And so when you meet somebody and something feels off, yes, it could be a sign. If we're in that state of fear and anxiety, if we have something to protect, if we're in that zone, we may want to pay attention to that. But in general, what we focus on is what we're going to feel. So if we're focusing on those feelings of something being off, then that's what we're going to notice and that's what we're going to feel in others. And it's not that we want to be ignoring this feeling, right? We don't want to feel something's off and then try to change our state of being, but just know that that feeling is coming from within you and that everybody else is just who they are and they're perfect as they are. And so it's all just a question of how you're relating to that person. You're just projecting your reflection out towards them and it's not in harmony. And so that might mean that this person is probably not going to make a good friend. Who knows? But it's up to you to decide. It has nothing to do with them. They're a neutral happening. They're a neutral part of this whole game. And here's the important part. They're very important. Otherwise, they wouldn't be standing in front of you. So anybody that you meet, whether they make you feel good, bad, whatever it is, however you, because they didn't make you feel that way, but however you feel around anybody, just know that they are perfectly there for a reason, even if it means that you get to know yourself in this moment under those circumstances a little bit better. So somebody said that it's reminding you of a person that hurt you and their intentions are reminding you of your past experiences. Use your own traumas as a map, everybody. This would be what, so I like to assign people exercises on how to decipher their psyche, right? And one of these exercises requires us to journal about a traumatic event that has happened in our life. And then once we get that all out on paper, we then journal what the solution to that traumatic event could have been. And once we do that, we now have context of the difference. We have context of what would have brought us security, happiness, whatever it is we were missing from, let's say, this person that we loved who infused the trauma into our life, whether it was a parent, our first boyfriend or girlfriend, family figure, our sister, our older brother, whoever instilled this trauma within us, we get to discover what would have overrid that to the point where, like, what can we go back and imagine would have replaced that scenario so that there wasn't a trauma. And us doing that homework allows us to know how to override our traumas. So a lot of the times we just try to forget our traumas, and that's not going to work. We have to find the reverse frequency of it. And the only way that we do that is happening within ourselves. We don't do that because the person shows up differently, because the person's not going to. Everybody's going to show up exactly as they are. And if somebody made you feel a certain way, it's your responsibility to know what the opposite of that feeling is and how you would have gotten there with that relationship so that you can then seek out relationships in the future where the opposite frequency is met. And without doing that, you're just going to continue going on blaming other people, that they made you feel a certain way, even though they didn't. You feel a certain way because your feelings. So you're going to go on around blaming other people. They made you feel a certain way, and you're never going to be able to override those traumas, and they're going to live within you. So you can go back and reverse engineer situations so that you know what the difference is, and you can then take that difference, and that's what you can know you need, because other people are going to be tricking you on things that are completely neutral. For instance, if your dad, let's say you're a boy and your dad called you a little bitch your entire life, you know, and then you join like job. And then that word comes up. Yeah, it's technically not a professional thing, right? But like the word bitch or little bitch comes up. You're going to go into and associate, let's say it was a boss or somebody else that uses that same terminology, or maybe even the same tone of voice, or maybe the person looks like your dad. You're going to go back to your 8-year-old self where that program is. You're going to rerun that, even though it could have been something that another person who didn't have that trauma didn't care about. So we're going to be infusing our traumas and attaching them to other people because that's all we know how to do. And we really have to go back. We really get to go back and untangle it. So somebody's asking for a step-by-step example. So if we really want to go back and untangle our programs, we need to get into the same state of awareness. So between the ages of like 4 and 8 years old, our brain is vibrating at what's called theta frequency. This frequency is what's, I would say maybe even 3, maybe even younger. But this frequency is a frequency that allows programs to be written into our psyche. And it's like that because if you think about a little toddler, they're learning how to do things, how to walk, how to talk to people, how to relate. They're learning their lessons. But this is also a time where the parents are getting really busy. It's, you know, they've had a kid for 4 years and they're kind of over the honeymoon phase of having the kid, and things are like the parents are going to be saying things, thinking from their 35-year-old brain, talking to a 5-year-old, thinking that the 5-year-old understands the context of why they're saying, no, you can't continue playing outside. We have to go inside. Give me that toy right now. I'll give it to you after you eat. The parents thinking that the kid can hear that from the context that they're saying it, but they can't. The kid, all they hear is, I need to give you what I love so that I can get food. So I need to give up something that I need to lose something in order to gain something, right? So that kid's now instilling this program that I must lose something in order to get something. I'm just making this up off the top of my head. Because they're in this theta frequency, the child is eventually going to come out of theta frequency, 7, 8 years old, and now they're going to take all of these programs and they're now going to start incorporating them into their life, and it's never going to stop for the rest of the life. Unless, as an adult, we can go into theta frequency and start unwinding these programs and start overwriting them with new programs. This is how the brain works. Because if we could just deprogram ourselves and unprogram ourselves, then it would not stabilize us as humans. Now, what are some things to get us into theta frequency? So here's the scary part. So meditation is the way, all right? It's like getting to that place. Theta is like right before you're falling asleep. It's that meditative zone, all right? You know when else we're in meditative theta frequency? When we're a zombie on the couch. So the entire world being programmed in theta while they watch TV. Which is why watch TV is extremely dangerous, because you're being programmed on how to act, how to think, how to talk, how to relate to the world, just as if you were a 7-8-year-old kid. Ever wonder why we're afraid of the dark? Because of the stuff that is taught to us on TV. So, meditate. Somebody says Jose de Silva method. What is it called? The Ultramind technique? That's some good stuff. Similar, yeah. The 3 scenes technique is one of the things in the Ultramind Silva method. So the 3 scenes technique, if I can remember it, which way do you go? I forget which direction you go, but I'll give you the gist of it, and then you can look it up. You imagine the scene. I'm not going to go over it because I can't remember exactly how it goes. But the point is, if you meditate, if you chant, if you do practices like this, even you're breaking through your programming and you're getting to the core of yourself. I love the maneuvers because things do come up, right? Because we're holding some of these traumas in our physical body, and we get to breathe through them and sit there holding ourselves in fetal-esque positions, or we're going back to our root, we're going back to our center, we're going back to ourself. I've never heard of Joseph Murphy. I like the idea of God being the subconscious in us all. Have you guys heard that? So the way into the subconscious is through the breath, right? Same thing with meditation. And if you look up the etymology of the word spirit, you're going to see that it's breath, right? So inspire, spirit comes from spirito, which means breath. There's also another name, the original name for Jesus is Yahweh, right? And Yahweh is made up of consonants that you do not touch. Your teeth, your tongue doesn't touch anything in your mouth, and your lips don't touch. Yahweh. There's no touching. And Yahweh can also be another sound for the breath. Yah is on the inhale, Weh is the exhale. So it is our breath that is the name of the Lord, the Spirit. And I really like the overlap in breath and the religious context of the God figure, because they're the same. What shampoo do you use and what do you prevent gray hair? I don't actually. Oh. Hello.
Hi.
Can you talk right now?
Yeah, I was just walking out of somewhere.
How's it going?
All right, how are you?
Good. What's your name?
Katie.
Katie. Hopefully your internet's good out here. Are you on Wi-Fi that you're getting far away from, or
There, guys.
you have a question? What's going on?
It's just been very interesting the last couple of days. It's all of a sudden we're having all these opportunities to share, like fascia maneuvers. I'm just standing there and they're like, I have a shoulder pain or I have this pain. And they're all just amazed at how little, just a slight movement and everything. So it's just been, most of the time when I tell people about like fascia maneuvers, they look at me like I have 3 heads and they're like, that's not going to work. I don't believe you. Da, da, da. So I kind of get discouraged about helping people. I love to help people and I love to see the things that I find to pass those along, but it gets discouraging when people like don't want to listen and everything. So it's just been all these eye-opening things lately just popping up, and it's just been amazing.
Yeah.
So
people are listening more. Is that what you're saying?
mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like I was in the Verizon store fixing my phone. I'm one of the last people in there because they're about to close. And they're standing there. One guy's complaining about his back, and another one's like, oh gosh, my shoulder. And so I started telling them, they're like, are you a chiropractor? I'm like, nope. I was like, they're like, where do you learn this stuff? And I'm like, Human Garage. It's very easy. Yeah. So I showed the guy with the knees. He's like, my back's popping. Oh my gosh, I've been in pain for 3 days, and just that little bit helped. So
yeah.
And then I was telling them about the Irish sea moss and the DE, and they're like, well, where do you get that stuff? And I was like, I actually make it. And they're like, do you sell it? And I'm like, no, but I mean, I could make you a jar and or whatever. So I'm just wondering if that's maybe what I should be doing. Is I feel a calling to help Human Garage in some way, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I have a full-time job. That's what I'm just walking out of my office right now and everything. And so, like, I try to watch the lives as much as possible, but sometimes I'm in and out of them. But, and I had the opportunity to go to Costa Rica. I just didn't have the funds and just family time and stuff.
Oh, nice. So you're a lifestyle artist?
No, I have struggled to finish the 28 days. I don't know. I have like a middle block against it. I'm at day 23, I think. But I've been there for a little while. Like I started up and then I quit again. But I do maneuvers on and off all the time. So I don't know if I should reset all the way back to the beginning of the 28 days or just finish where I'm at and everything.
I think you should just continue going forward. You're like 5 days away.
I know. Oh, and I just can't seem to. And that's the thing is like I get these mental blocks and I can't figure out why I have them. I know all this stuff helps you. I can tell it to everybody else, but me doing it myself, I get mental blocks. I don't know why.
So what helped me out was that, because I just heard you say that you're doing the maneuvers not every single day is what I heard you say, right?
Right. And well, it's like if I have neck pain, I'll do the ear twerks or the antler twist. And if I on and off have a lot of pains in my right ankle. So I'll do the wrist twist and the ankle and go all the way up the leg. Like I do what I need at the time, basically.
Yeah. So what helped me out was I was hanging out with Jason, and Jason said something like, it wasn't until like 6 or 8 months of doing the maneuvers every single day that he really started opening up. And I was doing it just like every so often as well. Mm-hmm. And then I just started committing every single day. And when you do at least totally twisted, like the first 2 or 3 every single day, at least those, and then the days you can do more for some of the accessory ones, your body does start responding after many months. And so I feel like a consistent effort for many months starts to unravel and reveal like deeper parts of yourself that like I started discovering things in my body that I never knew was there or I've been like wanting to uncover. And it wasn't until like months of doing it on a consistent basis.
Right.
So that's what I would say, is that even the masters like Jason, it's not like a 10-day thing or a 28-day thing. It's a lifestyle commitment, and they do it every morning and multiple times during the day. They're always doing them.
Right. Okay. And that's what, I mean, like I said, I work full time. I have a 7-year-old. We're in, his baseball, different things. So I'm like, we were doing them, me and my husband, at night together. And then we just kept getting so exhausted and then finding an excuse not to finish. And then, I mean, we get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and start breakfasts and lunch and putting together lunches and out the door by 7. So I guess I just need to make more time for myself and everything, and maybe get up 20 minutes early and do Totally Twisted or something.
Yeah, I mean, so what the ancients would say is that stuff like this or meditation is you respecting the gods. And so they would give themselves an assignment, like 10% of the day is 2.5 hours. And so that would be kind of their goal, to be in a meditative state. But with this, we're talking about like 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 45 minutes if we want to do like a full, huge round of it. And so that's very little compared to the whole day. And I think that we can all find that to commit to ourselves and our well-being, and essentially connect to the universe through this. Because the more in alignment we are, the more that we can connect to our greater self. But I think that you're having more influence over people because you're being in more alignment with this. And with more power, people start to listen because they can feel your energy is shifting. And then it's less force needed by you. So when you go out and you're trying to force people into something, it comes from a lack of power, and then people don't listen. So the fact that people are being attractive and magnetic to you is suggesting that your power is increasing. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And that's what, I mean, I keep thinking, how can I in my head, I've got on many lives with Gary. And like I said, I got invited to go to Costa Rica and different things. Like, I feel a calling to do something with Human Garage. And it just amazes me, the whole community. Everybody's so supportive. And I love listening to your Wednesday things usually. And I just learned so much. And it's just amazes you how much the body and just history and stuff has, like, how everything fits together.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing the work already if you're telling people about Human Garage. Like,
and maybe that's where I need to be and everything. Like, I had a dream last night that Gary came to some live, and it was in my hometown, but somehow it was where my son's baseball game was. So I was in line to talk to him personally. And then I had to hop out of line because I was doing the dugout with my son. And then I had to hop back. And by the time I got up there, Gary left. And I just kind of chased him down to talk to him. He's like, I'll be back. And then I woke up.
If anybody is ever going to go to a Human Garage event and you want to talk to Gary like that, definitely get there early.
Yes.
Because the line does get backed up.
Weird. In my dream, the line was short. And like, I was right up there, and then I had to go do something with the baseball team and come back, and he was walking off the stage, and I was like, oh, I missed him.
Yeah.
It just made me laugh. All these little signs keep coming up and everything. Now in my dreams and different things with that.
So, all right, you desire to work with Human Garage in a more profound state than you are right now. That's one of your dreams. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. And that's what I've messaged, because we used to have a delivery business and manufacturing. I've messaged Lisa about maybe doing some type of distribution or something with Human Garage in some way, or somehow doing that. She didn't respond back. I know they're busy. I know they probably get multiple people saying that, so I don't take any offense to it.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, yeah.
But I just love this community. I mean, everybody is so supportive. I mean, if you just reach out to different people, someone always answers your questions and stuff. And just the people directly in Human Garage, but lifestyle artists or coaches and different things like that. The meetups have been great. I joined one of those on Wednesdays with Deidre.
Cool. Yeah, well, you can start your own meetups too.
Yeah, I kind of thought about that a little bit. So
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do something, you don't have to wait for anybody to give you permission in anything. But when you start doing that, then it'll give you motivation to keep on going through the process of, finishing the 28-day reset, going through the lifestyle artist program. That'll give you reason and motivation to do that if you have like a reoccurring event, even if it's just friends and family.
Right. But it's people off the street lately, and it's just amazed me, like at the Verizon store yesterday when I was trying to get my phone fixed and everything. And they were all open to it, and they were shocked with it. And I'm like, yep, it's so simple to do these little things. Your body wants to heal itself.
Yeah. It's going to be amazing, the future of this. So we're in it in the beginning.
Yep.
Kind of.
Well, I appreciate you and everything. Thank you.
Alrighty. Take care.
You too.
Breath Messiah.
What's up, man?
What's up? Where are you from?
Where am I from? I'm from Wisconsin. I'm currently living in Minneapolis.
All right.
How about you? Where are you from?
I was born in California. I grew up in Michigan, and now I'm back in California.
What part of Michigan?
Oakland County, kind of like Metro Detroit, the suburbs of Detroit, 40 minutes away. Yeah.
That's
Played hockey.
what's up.
So what are you doing on here?
So what am I doing? I was gonna ask Gary something, but I'm gonna ask Ross something instead. So what I'm gonna ask you is, throughout your journey and throughout your expansion of yourself, what are 3 keys that have been transformative, sparking, or inspirational that you think are important to share? Whether that be 3 discoveries, whether that be 3 revelations, what are 3 keys that you personally have experienced that you would like to share in this moment?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I got to the point where it was down to 3, but I think that even those 3 distilled down to 1, which is all is self, because I started looking at all the occult, secret society, religious, like all of the information, and started figuring out like what's the threads that go through them all. And the key that they all sort of speak to is that all is self. And some people have problems with that because it sounds like I'm saying that I am God, but I'm not really saying that. I'm saying that was what all religions will say, which is God is in everything, including me. And so it's not that I'm saying I am God. I'm saying what we think of as God is me. So then, therefore, yes, to both sides to that. And with that realization, then I assume responsibility for my creation, which means that everything that I see is also me. And so I'm very careful. So now I'm going into the second phase of that. So with the understanding that all is self, it's very important that I relate to myself, meaning all aspects of reality, in a harmonious way, right? So if all this self, it's impossible for me to hate what I see, even if what I'm seeing is like death and destruction and rape and war and all that stuff. And then it leads me to a whole series of like mind fucks of like, how can this be? Why is this happening? And I think that that's all sort of like the purpose and the practice of life, is finding yourself within the madness of this reality. And so that's where I'm at my stage of the game.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Because really what I heard from it is like you've had to find a way to simplify, all of these intricacies into knowing that this is all you, And then what's interesting too, I was going to ask you, but then you said it. You said, I'm also responsible, right? So I was going to ask you, knowing that all is self, I am God, the God, you know what I mean? God is everywhere. God is me. God is everything. How do you take responsibility but still give yourself room to grow? Or how have you learned how to, set the bar high, but still allow yourself to experience, to learn, to grow, to, does that make sense?
Yeah. What I find challenging is if I'm in this sort of like everything is light and love mindset, then I forget to experience the pain. And so I was just in bed for literally 7 days in a row, with illness. And at like day 5 or 6, I realized like I haven't had a single negative thought during this whole thing. I was just looking at it as rest and time to reflect on what the next steps are in life. But then I started thinking like, what is this? Is that healthy? Is it healthy for me to not experience the shadow or the darkness or the suffering in this? And so I allowed myself that, like I kind of almost let in the darkness a little bit, and it felt welcome. And so it's reminding myself that we're here to have a full spectrum, emotional and physical experience, and to not get attached into a dogma one way or another, even if it feels good in the moment, because that's how all dogmas are. They feel like it's the only perspective and we should always be doing this thing. And so it's interesting when we can step out of the perspective that we hold so dear and true and realize like, oh, this isn't always the case. Because one of the shadow aspects of being aware is that let me speak for myself. One of my shadow sides that I need to constantly be aware of is sometimes I discredit other people's complaints or negative emotions because I don't really experience. So I kind of bulldoze over or ignore another person saying something is wrong because I don't see it as wrong. And so that's one of my shadows that I need to pay attention to make sure that I'm allowing others to experience, like you're saying, life in its full essence. And I can fully allow others to be present if I'm more present of these emotions that maybe I'm just scared to feel. Maybe I found myself something that's really comfortable. And yeah, in order to expand, we really have to uncover the parts of ourselves that we don't reveal.
Yeah, I resonate with that because it's like if somebody's complaining, you're like, dude, just stop. Like, dude, you don't need to focus on it. Like, stop talking about it. But that's also their experience. That's where they are in their journey, whatever it is, right? It's that was really good that you just said, because I guarantee every person, right? If somebody is doing something that we feel like we've overcome, right? Now we in some way look down on that thing or that person like it's not that hard, it's not that difficult. You just have to do this. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah. But then if we look at ourselves when we were that person in that circumstance or situation, right? So it's yeah, that's a bar. That's a bar. Last question I have for you. What are 3 books that you highly recommend and why? And then finish it off with one of your favorite quotes.
Okay, so the first book is, let me see if I can remember the title. shit, I can't. Okay, so I'm going to give you the precursor to the book is called The Secret Teaching of Plants. So that author wrote another book that's called Something Into the Dreaming of Earth. So if you Google those things, here, let me, hold on. It's so important that it's probably my favorite book. I forgot it. Give me a, all right. So it's called, here it is. Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm Beyond the Doors of Perception into the Dreaming of Earth. That sounds a little bit difficult for me to remember the whole title.
Yeah.
But there's a book before that you should read called The Secret Teaching of Plants. But this book is about essentially Gaian theory, about the earth being a living organism.
Yep.
And it's written by a scientist. So it's not like esoteric. It's an amazing book. Another book that is more esoteric is called Conversations with God. It's not a religious book, but I think that full series is amazing.
Is that the book where the guy basically was complaining to God and then he just kept writing it down and then miracles and things would happen? Is that one?
He's basically having a conversation he's channeling something, and that something calls itself God. So, and then he's just asking questions like he's complaining. It kind of sounds like he's like complaining about all the problems in his life.
Yeah.
But there's book 1, 2, and 3. And then the third book is a book, it's more entertaining. It's called Initiation. I think it's by like Elizabeth something. It's about this woman who can remember her past lives. And one of her past lives, she's a pharaoh's daughter. Through the initiation process in ancient Egypt. And it's an amazing book. The whole thing is amazing. So those books are some of my favorites. And then the quote that stuck out when you said, leave us with a quote, was the quote that I saw when I was moving to California from Michigan like 18 years ago. And it said, it just said like, jump and build your wings on the way down. And so I was leaving Michigan, going to California with nothing. And it was in a bookstore as I was walking through the airport on my way to California with 5 pieces of luggage, and it said, jump and build your wings on the way down. And I think that having self-efficacy, having trust that you're going to be effective in what you do is the first step to being successful in anything, because you have to trust yourself for anybody else to trust you, especially physical reality around you. And so having that trust is magical, and it grants us power.
Yeah. And it also, for me, it's like you're not gonna figure it out in the jump, right? It's in the letting go where you feel like you're falling is where you find this real strength or this real ability to glide, to fly, yeah. And then what you just said too reminds me of when I was in Hawaii. Somebody told me you just have to jump. You have to jump. There's an invisible rainbow bridge beyond this cloud that you can't see. You just have to jump. You're going to get caught. Like, you're going to land on this bridge. So just jump. So
you're going. So the reason why you don't jump is because you don't know what's going to happen. But the only way to know what's going to happen is to jump. So it's almost like, yeah, that's the only way to get the answer that's holding you from jumping. So yeah, no matter what, you're going to land where you're going to land, and you get to see and grow through that progress.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ra.
All right.
Much love. Appreciate you.
I'm out, everybody. Take care.